In this episode, let's take a look at the RODE NT1-A. It's a mic you can use for voiceover or for vlogging, anything along those lines. Let's see how it stacks up. Check this out. Now, the RODE NT1-A is a mic that's been out for a number of years now, over 10 years. And this particular one has an XLR connector to it, so it's made for using with an audio interface or a field recorder that takes an XLR input. It is a pretty good microphone. I've had it for about 7 years and been pretty happy with it. Not totally in love with it, but been pretty happy with it, and I think it's definitely a good buy. There are links for it down below. Right now in the United States, it retails for about $229 US, which in that case, it comes with the microphone itself. It comes with a shock mount, which is this kind of funny looking mount that suspends it so that it's isolated from the vibrations of the mic stand itself. And it also comes with a pop filter. Now, I bought it actually before. They changed it up about 4 or 5 years ago, where they started shipping it with a slightly different shock mount and a built-in pop filter. I actually got it before that, so this one came with the shock mount. I have my own pop filter. It does not come with this desk stand. That's something I've added. And at the time, it came with this very plush leather pouch, which is actually kind of a nice touch. Nowadays, it comes with a dust cover instead of that, but it also comes with what I think seems like a better shock mount with the built-in pop filter. In terms of build quality, I think it's pretty top-notch, especially for the amount you pay for it. The body itself is a very solid metal. I believe it's brass. So even if you drop it, it's not likely to dent a whole lot. It might scratch some. The basket itself up here at the top is pretty good. It seems pretty sturdy. I've never had any problems. I've never dropped it, to be honest and to be fair. But if you did drop it, I think it would do a pretty decent job protecting the capsule which is inside of it. Now, all mics have their internal circuitry, and that internal circuitry makes it introduces a tiny bit of noise to the overall signal that you capture and record. One claim that RODE makes about this mic is that it is the quietest mic in terms of self-noise in the industry. Is that true? I don't know. But is it quiet? The answer is definitely yes. Now, as I mentioned before, the pop filter is very helpful for isolating the microphone from the stand, so that's going to reduce some of the rumbling that you might capture if someone accidentally bumps the stand or there's some other set of vibration in the room or on stage or wherever you're using it. It also comes with a pop filter. Pop filter is very helpful for preventing that noise you get when you talk into a microphone and you say the letter P or B. What happens when you say those is there's a little bit of a puff of air that comes out of your mouth, and that can really kind of overwhelm the microphone just for a portion of a second and make a really kind of jarring noise. But that's what a pop filter prevents. It keeps you from actually capturing that noise. Now you can see here the working distance. I'm working probably 6 to 8 inches from the front of the mic. That's a pretty good working distance. If you move in up closer, you will start to get what's called a proximity effect, and it will get very, very sensitive. You'll get more response in the lower frequencies. And then of course, if you back up and say here, I'm working almost a meter, it obviously gets a lot quieter, but you also start to pick up a lot more of the room noise. So kind of the optimal range for this mic, I've found, if you're going to be working in a room that isn't acoustically treated, and that's almost every one of us in most of our houses or apartments or wherever we live, we're going to be working in environments where we need to get up pretty close on this mic. And so, like I said, 6 to 8 inches seems to be about the optimal for this mic. Now, the big question, how does the mic sound? How does it perform? Well, this entire episode's been recorded on the RODE NT1-A, and I've been recording that, as I said, into a Saffire Pro DSP, or 24 DSP audio interface, a Focusrite interface, such a decent quality interface. And it sounds pretty good. Now, one really important thing to consider when you're looking at a mic, considering whether to buy it, is its frequency response chart. And what that refers to is it shows you how sensitive a mic is to sounds at different frequencies. So for example, if you look at this chart here, on the left-hand side, bass and things like that. On the right-hand side, far right, are the high-pitched sounds. And these are things like cymbals. And when people say the letter S, that's going to be a little closer to that right-hand side. And then this middle horizontal line represents no bias towards an emphasis or de-emphasis at any given frequency. So the way you want to look at this is if you can get the frequency response chart for a mic that you're considering buying, it's really helpful in telling you whether or not the mic is going to be a little more sensitive or a little less sensitive at particular frequencies. So in any cases where the mic de-emphasizes a certain frequency, the line is going to be below that straight horizontal line. In any cases where it tends to emphasize a particular frequency, the line is going to be above that horizontal line. So if you had a microphone and the frequency response curve followed that center line exactly all the way across, that would be like a perfect mic in terms of sounding perfectly natural. It wouldn't emphasize or de-emphasize any particular frequencies. So my personal opinion is that if you're looking for your first mic for voiceover, you want something that's pretty neutral under most circumstances, because what that means is that mic is going to be able to be used with a variety of different voices and in a variety of different situations, and getting a pretty good overall recording. And you can always EQ it from there, change things a little bit, but that's a good place to start. All this technical mumbo jumbo, I apologize, I try to keep those parts really simple. But what does the RODE NT1-A's frequency response chart look like? Well, let's take a look. And truthfully, as we look at this, if you ask me, it looks a little funky. And it definitely has an emphasis here in the low mid-range, and then it has several peaks in the higher frequencies. So what does that mean in practical terms? What that means is this mic tends to be a little more sensitive in that low to mid-range, and then also in those humps that you see in the high frequencies. What that means for me, for my particular voice, I can speak for, it tends to pick up a little more sibilance, because those peaks in the higher frequency range is exactly where sibilance occurs. And that's, again, the noises that you hear when someone says the letter S. And you'll notice it sounds a little sizzly. And if there's too much of that, it tends to not sound great. I guess it's partly a matter of personal preference, but overall, if you get too much of it, it doesn't really sound good, in my opinion. So this mic is probably better suited for someone that doesn't have a lot of sibilance in their voice. But overall, again, it seems to work pretty well for most cases if you can live with a little bit of that noise, and you can do some EQ after you've done the recording to bring some of that down if you do find you get a lot of it in a particular recording. Now, just to give you an idea of what happens when you EQ the mic here to eliminate some of that sibilance, let's do it's kind of a side-by-side comparison. Here I am actually recording straight from the mic with no processing except for normalization. And all that normalization means, for those of you that aren't familiar with that, is bringing your loudest levels all the way to the max, so as high as they can go, and then everything else comes up corresponding to that. So this is what it sounds like straight into the mic. Now here's a test where we're, again, recording straight into the mic, normalizing, as I just described, and then doing a little bit of EQ to mellow out those high frequency regions that tend to have a little bit more emphasis with this particular mic. So you can get a sense for what it sounds like, what the possibilities are. Now, this is not the most awesome workflow, because you do have to do some extra work in post-processing, but to be fair, this is what you can expect if you do that little extra bit of work. Now, in my opinion, this is a fantastic mic for the money. So $229 US, you get a shock mount, you get a pop filter, you get a dust cover, and you get an XLR cable that comes with it. So all you need beyond that, of course, is your audio interface or field recorder, and you're in business. But because of the thing I just mentioned there with the sibilance, if I were in the market today, I would actually look at a different mic. And again, I bought this about 7 years ago. Within the last year, actually within the last probably 6 months, RODE has released a new version of this mic, or a similar version of this mic, called the RODE NT1. And it costs about $40 US more. And the reason I would look at it is because of this. This is its frequency response curve. And you can see that this looks a lot better. And better, I mean, it looks like it'd be better for general purpose use. So you could probably get less of that sibilance in a recording with this RODE NT1 mic as opposed to the NT1-A. Now, this just so happens, in my experience with large diaphragm condenser mics like this in the less than $500 range, almost all of them have some sort of peak in the high frequencies, and that tends to make them kind of sizzly. Some people call it air, and sometimes it sounds okay, but depending on the person's voice, it can sound really bad as well. But I would start with this RODE NT1. I would actually probably just save up the extra $40 and go for that one instead, because I think you're going to be able to use that in more situations with having to do less post-processing to bring down any sibilance that you may capture. So overall, that's a quick look at the RODE NT1-A. I hope you found that helpful. Thanks for checking out the show. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and do that, and we will get you more great videos on how to improve your lighting and sound for video. Talk with you soon.